I am Masako Wada of Nihon Hidankyo. I would like to share with you a very personal story from the bombing. And I will discuss the worldwide movement to abolish nuclear weapons and what we can do together to achieve that. I was born in Nagasaki in 1943, so I'm one of the youngest Hibakusha. I was 1 year and 10 months old when the bomb was detonated over my city. I was too young to remember what happened. I don't think I can talk about the indescribable events that other elder Hibakusha went through, but I was there with my mother and my grandfather. My house was 2.9 kilometers from the blast center, thanks to the mountains, which somewhat shielded my house from the direct impact of the bomb. So I'm still here. My mother used to tell me her story many times. My mother's atomic bomb experience. With the bomb explosion, the window panes, shoji paper screens, lattice doors, and clay walls had all crumbled into pieces by the blast. A pile of mud and dust over 1 foot thick was left on the floor. She saw an astonishing scene on the brown mountainside, a long black line moving downwards. It looked like a march of ants. They were burned and wounded people trying to escape from fires, escaping the fires near the epicenter by coming over the mountain. They were almost naked, their hair stuck together with blood like horns. Many people might have died along the way. On August 15th, 1975, when World War II ended, she was sent to the auditorium of Nagasaki University to help the medical team treating the people sheltering there for burns or other wounds. No words can describe that scene of people lying all over the floor there. Taking antiseptic solution with her, she followed the doctor and treated each patient, but their wounds were so unbelievably severe that she ended up fainting after screaming, "Someone, please take this antiseptic solution." Medical supplies were very valuable at that time. When she opened her eyes again, she found herself lying down on the floor as well. They said they didn't need a nurse like her, and she was sent to join the cleaning team. Numerous maggots as big as your thumb were swarming on the burns or wounds of the victims who were laid all over the floor of the college auditorium. Her job was to brush off the maggots from their body with a broom. She was 24 years old. There was an empty lot next to our house because of building evacuation. In that empty lot, the dead were cremated from morning till night, every day. The stench made her totally lose her appetite. Human remains packed into box-shaped garbage carts were continuously brought there. The workers collecting bodies from the street just held them by the limbs and throw them into the cart. Their hideously burnt hands and feet stuck out as if they were dolls. People talked about the dead as if they were an everyday sight, saying, "There are lots today," or "There aren't so many today." Everybody became numb to what was happening. What is human dignity? Should human beings be treated like that? We are not created to be burned like garbage. This is just a little part of the account that I heard repeatedly from my mother. She passed away 10 years ago at the age of 89. She suffered from stomach cancer, liver cancer, and various other diseases, and had been hospitalized on and off 28 times. She seemed very unsatisfied when she read the account once I had recorded. The words couldn't capture her experience of hell on earth. I assumed that other Hibakusha would feel the same. I always feel hesitant to share my mother's experience with other people, as I know I can even fully describe what really happened. But now that 76 years have passed, the average age of the survivors is 84, and we younger Hibakusha must continue their work and speak out on their behalf. In September of 1945, the deputy commander of Manhattan Project, Thomas Farrell, visited Japan. He issued a press statement claiming there was no more after effects from radiation in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and all who were supposed to die had already died. After this announcement, all the first aid stations in Hiroshima were closed at a time when the Hibakusha needed medical care most. Both the Japanese and US governments abandoned them. Under the strict press code imposed by the occupation forces, all the articles and reports on the atomic bombings were prohibited. The Hibakusha were not informed of the cause of their suffering. By the end of 1945, about 140,000 people in Hiroshima and 70,000 people in Nagasaki had died as a result of the bombings. Most of them were civilians, including elderly people, women, and children. Many had been killed instantly without knowing what had happened. Those who were under the mushroom cloud, irrespective of their race, nationality, age, or sex, either died or were forced to live as hibakusha. The deep suffering of those who barely survived continues to this day. Many of them suffered from burns and other injuries, as well as the after effects of radiation. Then there was a loss of loved ones, survivors' guilt, the scenes, sounds, and smell of the day burnt into their memories, diseases of an unknown cause, economic hardship, discrimination in society due to misinformation about radiation exposure, and many broken dreams. In addition, the Hibakusha, originally from China and the Korean peninsula, suffered from racial discrimination. The government did nothing to help them, but simply ignored and abandoned them. With wounds on their bodies and in their minds, the Hibakusha desperately struggled to live on while being forced to keep their mouths shut. Our organization, Nihon Hidankyo, was founded in 1956, 11 years after the atomic bombings. In a proclamation called Message to the World, adopted at the first meeting, the Hibakusha declared, thus, we have reassured our will to save humanity from its crisis through the lessons learned from our experiences, while at the same time saving ourselves. And for 64 years since then, we have lived and worked tirelessly according to this commitment so that no one else in the world will ever go through the same suffering that we experienced. It has now been 51 years since the NPT, the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, entered into force. Article 6 of the NPT stipulates that the state parties should pursue negotiation in good faith for nuclear disarmament. We must ask if the nuclear armed states have really pursued these obligations in good faith. On July 7, 2017, the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons was adopted at the UN conference. Hibakusha were overjoyed, thinking that our survival had been rewarded. A heavy and rusty door seemed to be opening, and we are finally seeing a ray of light illuminating a path to achieving our goal. And this year, on January 22nd, the TPNW entered into force, which was based on the humanitarian consequences. The treaty provides tremendous hope and strength for us to promote our movement in the world. So far, 54 nations have ratified the treaty. And whether we can actually open the door more widely depends on the decisions of governments, as well as the action of citizens urging the decisions of their governments. I sincerely ask each one of you today, as members of civil society, as members, as human beings with dignity, and as peacemakers, to raise your voices for the abolishment of nuclear weapons. There are those who created the atomic bombs and those who used them. And there are also those who were pleased by their destructive power and consequences. These people are absolutely unpardonable. But we Hibakusha have never wished to take vengeance on them. We know that if a nuclear weapon is to be used for the third time, there would be no one who would survive and rejoice about its devastation in an atomic desert, where nothing is left. Who can be proud of the might of national power, status, or prestige? Nuclear weapons, which continue to be created on the pretext of deterrence and not for actual use, are nothing but a negative human legacy. Power dictated by nuclear weapons is not justice. And what is required of us is to disarm our hearts, pray, hold dialogue with people, and take action together. We Hibakusha pledge to use our remaining strength to work together with you. I was there 75 years ago, and I'm still here to tell you our ardent and sincere desire of all the Hibakusha. Thank you very much.